Hello friends, today we will start with some basic concepts or basic mechanisms related to the metabolism of glucose. So first of all, the glucose. Everyone knows that the glucose is synthesized from the CO2 plus H2O. Mainly the glucose is synthesized in the green part, that is with the use of chlorophyll in the presence of sunlight, and this pathway is called as, everyone knows what is it, that is photosynthesis. Now once glucose is formed, then what is the fate of the glucose? Now glucose might be used for the energy purpose, or some excess amount of glucose that can be stored in the cells or tissues. So the glucose is stored in the form of glycogen. Now the glucose is stored in the form of glycogen, and the pathway is known as glycogenesis. Glycogenesis is made up of two words, that is glyco and genesis. Genesis is the formation and glyco is the glycogen. Okay. So then after, the one important concept is that the one thing everyone knows, that the glucose is present in the plants as well as the animals. It is formed in the plants via the pathway of photosynthesis with the help of carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll in the presence of sunlight, and and when the animal consumes the plants, then it's transferred into the animals. Now second point arises is that when the glucose is absorbed or taken by the animals, then it is stored. Okay, so glucose is stored in the form of glycogen, but where? But in animals. Okay, now the glucose is stored in the form of glycogen in the animals. Then what is the pathway, what is the form in the plants that glycogen or glucose is stored? So here comes the another point, is that the glucose is stored in form of starch, that is plants in plants. Okay okay so next point. Now once glycogen is formed, then because glucose is stored in the form of glycogen with the help of glycogenesis, then whenever the body or the animal requires the glycogen or the glucose, then glycogen needs to be break down and get available to the cell. So which is the pathway that acts on the glycogen in order to convert glycogen into the glucose? So the glycogen is converted into the glucose with the help of glycogenolysis, that is glycogenolysis, that is lysis is breakdown and glycogen is glycogen, the breakdown of the glycogen in the form of into the glucose. Okay then one another term is there, that we called it as the gluconeogenesis or neoglucogenesis. So that is the formation of glucose with the help of oils or fats. To be more specific, that is the formation of glucose with the help of non-carbohydrate sources, that is for example the oils and the fats. So that process we called it as the gluconeogenesis. Gluco, that is glucose, neo, that is non-carbohydrate sources, and genesis is formation. Okay, now one another concept is that in the plants the glucose is stored in the form of starch, but somewhere the question might arise as that if it is stored in the form of starch, then which is the form that is mobilized in? So for the mobilization of the starch, actually the glucose is converted into sucrose, and that is mobilized and then it got converted into the starch. And why it is mobilized? Mobilized in form of sucrose, because it's non-reducing sugar. Okay, great. Okay, now another question arises is that these are the cycles that are helpful for the formation of glucose, store of glucose. So what is the fate of the glucose? The one of the main fate of the glucose is that it is used for the energy to the body, or the human body, or any body, or the plant. So what is the process? So first of all, glucose is break down into the pyruvic acid, and that is by the glycolysis. Okay, great. Then pyruvic acid is get converted into NADH2 and some ATPs. That is via the Krebs cycle. Citric acid cycle, one and the same. Okay, and then after the remaining portion, that is the NADH2, get converted into the ATPs with the help of exactly ETS, electron transport system or electron transport chain. That is by oxidative phosphorylation. Okay, great. Now there is one common point, that is the glycolysis takes place in both means in aerobes and anaerobes. Aerobes means which requires oxygen for their metabolism, and anaerobes are the ones those who don't require the oxygen for their metabolism. Okay, great. Now those those who don't require the oxygen are the anaerobes. Actually, there is a less formation of energy, that is 2 ATPs. 2 ATPs, that is a net production. Okay. And for the anaerobes, in the anaerobes, the Krebs cycle and ETS are only in aerobes because of oxygen, because they requires oxygen. Okay, they requires oxygen. Now what is a role of oxygen? So role of oxygen is it acts as final electron acceptor in ETS, that is electron transport system. Once the final electron is accepted in the ETS, then the whole process from glucose that we are learning, from glucose to pyruvic acid to this and ATP. So actually we are learning it in reverse direction. Actually, when the oxygen takes the electron, then these steps are carried out. Okay, and in this process, then 38 ATPs are generated. That is the net production. So with the help of oxygen, the net profit is of 38 ATPs. Requires the oxygen. Okay, so this is the aerobes, 38 ATPs, and aerobes require the oxygen. The role of oxygen is act as the final electron acceptor in electron transport system. Okay, great. Then there are some other factors. There are some other molecules also, that is the protein. Protein gets break down into amino acids, and it's called as the proteolysis. And another is lipids, or we can call it as fats, that's break down to form glycerol plus fatty acid. So these lipids get converted into glycerol plus fatty acid with the help of, or the process is called as lipolysis. Okay, so that's all for today, guys. Okay, if you like the video, please like the video, hit the subscribe button, and share with your friends. So till that, bye bye.